Hello everyone, and welcome to Erall-brad Unlimited. I'm happy to be back here in my ceramic studio after almost 20 years, and I'm looking forward to making some pieces with you. But before we can do that, I have a couple issues I have to resolve. The first being my clay situation. Unfortunately, clay doesn't stay workable for 20 years, and as you can see, mine is all dried out. So for this first ceramics episode, we're going to be reconstituting this block of clay here. It's not going to be the preferred method, but I don't have access to a pug machine for the time being, so I have to use a different process. It's going to take some work and some time, so I highly recommend you don't let your clay get to this point, but if you're watching this video, it's probably too late for that, but we'll get you taken care of. The second problem is my potter's wheel is making a funny noise. I suspect it needs some oil and some grease. I looked for some potter's wheel maintenance videos online a while back and came up empty, so that'll be our next episode. But for now, let's get some clay to work with. For this project, we're going to need our dried out clay, a work surface that can be easily cleaned of both wet and dry clay. If your clay is moldy, you're going to want a wire brush, a dust mask, a hammer, a screwdriver, a bowl, a rib, some rubber gloves, a baking sheet. Alright, so let's get going on this thing. Alright, so first things first, we're going to don our PPE. Make sure you have safety glasses because when you're breaking this clay up, it's going to fly all over everywhere and you don't want to get that in your eyes. Make sure you get this dust mask sealed up real well so you're not breathing in that dust. And we're going to scrub this mold off of here. Alright, now that we got a majority of the mold off of here, you're probably not going to be able to get all of it. Some of that stuff gets in there pretty deep. If you get a majority of it, you should be pretty good, as long as you use it within a couple days or so. I'm going to get some of this dust off of here. I'm going to take the rest of this outside and get rid of it. I will be right back. Alright, now that we've gotten rid of all of our nasty, moldy clay dust, we're ready to start breaking up this clay. So we're going to grab our bowl, we're going to grab our hammer and our screwdriver, and we're going to start breaking off pieces of this. If you position your bowl right, this stuff usually falls right into it. It's pretty nice. I found it works best if you break these up into the size of rough gravel. Works pretty well. This one here is still a little too big. There we go, that's better. Alright, now that we have our bowl full of gravel-sized clay pieces, we're going to head over to the sink and start adding our water to it. Alright, I can grab my hose here, get some water going. I like to just trickle it in here. It makes it a little easier. Use warm water because it absorbs into the clay faster and more consistently. And then when you're doing this, try and hit all the clay pieces. That way everything gets some water. And you don't want to add too much or it's going to be really soupy and take a long time to dry. Get a little more of this water out of here. There we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but it kind of makes some funny noises. Sounds like it's boiling. That's normal. It's just the air, just the water getting into all the air pockets in there. So we're going to let that sit for a couple hours and then we'll come back and check on it. Our clay has had plenty of time to soak up the water we added. It's looking pretty good. I don't see any water sitting on top of it. I don't see any dry spots. If you do have a little bit of water sitting on top of it, just pour it out into the sink. If you have any dry spots, just add a little more water and let it sit a little longer. But this is looking pretty good, so I'm going to throw some gloves on and we'll start mixing this up. As you can see, some of your clay is going to try getting away from you. The best way to take care of that is just grab your rib and scrape it off the rim and get it back in the bowl. When you're mixing this up, you're going to feel some chunks in it. Just break those chunks up because you want this as smooth and consistent as possible. Okay, now that we got our clay all mixed up and got the clumps out and it's nice and smooth, we're going to transfer it over to our baking sheet. This rib isn't helping me out very much, so I think I'll go ahead and just use my hands. Okay, now that we've got as much of our clay out of the bowl and off of our gloves as we possibly can, we want to take our rib and flatten this out. Help it dry out faster. At this point, it's still basically firm slip. And it's really hard to do anything with that. So, spread this out some. I like to get it down to about quarter of an inch thick. Now that we've got this all spread out to uniform thickness, we'll give it a couple hours and check on it again and go from there. Alright, so it's been a couple hours again. We're going to check on this clay here. Touch it lightly with your finger. If it doesn't stick to your finger, it's pretty good. It's firmed up a lot. Yeah, we'll give this a try. We're going to take it over to the table and wedge it and get all the air bubbles out of it, and we should be set. Alright, now we're going to get this clay out of this pan and get it back onto our work surface. So the top layer of this is pretty firm and it's pretty soft underneath, but that's fine, that's pretty normal. We'll get it all mixed up before we start wedging it, and then during the wedging process we'll be mixing it up some more, so it'll be fine. And this dry stuff, that's okay too. Just break it up into really fine pieces and it'll absorb some of the moisture in the clay and it'll be fine. I'm not going to need that anymore. Now for this part, I kind of just smash it flat. Give it somewhat of a shape. Flatten it out some more. And then once we get it nice and flat, about 3/4 inch thick, we'll fold it over. Fold it over again. And we'll repeat this process a few times until it starts getting mixed up. And for now, some of this stuff is still pretty wet, but it'll mix in and it'll all get to be the same. So when you fold it over and it starts to crack a little bit, it's starting to get dry enough that you can start wedging it. So we'll do this one more time here and then we'll start the wedging process. Got this into a ball. I just like starting out with the ball first. Makes it a little bit easier. All right. This isn't the best setup for this. This board keeps trying to move away from me. And then I'll pat it into a ball again. And get a little different angle on it. Alright, and then that should be pretty good. grab my wire cutter here in just a second and we'll cut it open and take a look. Alright, I don't know how well you can see this, but there's no air bubbles in there, so we're looking pretty good. If there's air bubbles, just repeat the process. Do this one more time. And then to store this, I find it's easier to store it when it's in a block rather than on a ball. So I square it up a bit. Alright, and there we go. We have a nice block of usable clay. Alright guys, that's it for today's episode. I hope it was helpful. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next time for some Potter's Wheel maintenance.